You float in silence. The stars shimmer like whispers, not shining for you, but existing endlessly, as they always have. Their light drifts through the dark sea of the universe, crossing distances so vast that the mind quiets trying to measure them. Here, there is no up or down, no before or after. Only the slow breath of space itself. You take a long breath, or imagine that you do, and feel the soft hum beneath everything. It's not sound in the way you know it on Earth. It's a vibration, a rhythm of existence, like a pulse that the universe has carried since the beginning. The echo of creation lingers in every particle around you, stretching through the velvet of infinity. Then, slowly, you begin to move, not by will but by something older, something patient, gravity. You feel it first as a tug, subtle, persuasive, not commanding but inviting. It is the quiet persuasion of the cosmos, the way all things are gently reminded of where they belong. You drift toward it, tracing invisible lines that thread through space. Gravity does not shout. It whispers and everything listens. A distant star curves the space around it, like a soft dip in an unseen fabric. You notice how light, pure and fast, bends around that curve. What looks like magic is simply nature's geometry, spacetime itself stretched by mass. You remember that Einstein once imagined this, that mass tells space how to curve, and curved space tells mass how to move. You float closer, and the bending becomes visible, not with eyes, but with awareness. The starlight that should have traveled straight now arcs like a slow, elegant ribbon. Even light, that fleet messenger of the cosmos, cannot ignore gravity's invitation. You begin to understand that space isn't empty. It's a vast, pliant fabric, holding the imprints of everything that has ever existed. Every planet, every star, every grain of cosmic dust makes its mark, warping the flow of time and direction in its quiet orbit. You drift through this fabric, feeling the unseen texture of curvature beneath your motion. And time, too, begins to change. At first, it's subtle. Your sense of moments softens, stretches. Seconds become wider, like waves rolling more slowly toward a shore. The closer you drift toward the unseen center of gravity, the more time loosens its grip. On Earth, time feels steady, one heartbeat following the next, the sun climbing and falling across a predictable sky. But here it becomes elastic. Massive objects bend not only the path of light but also the pace of time itself. A clock closer to a star ticks slower than one far away. You can almost feel it, like a drowsy slowing of your own pulse, as if the cosmos itself exhales and tells you to rest. The deeper you move, the darker space becomes, not from lack of stars, but from their light being drawn aside, stretched thin by the curve of spacetime. The darkness here isn't absence. It's density. The universe folds in on itself, gently, beautifully, with the patience of eons. You realize now that gravity is not just a force. It is relationship. It is the conversation between everything that exists. The planets orbit stars not because they are pulled by invisible threads, but because they are dancing on the curved pathways carved into space. You see it now as a waltz without beginning, where each partner shapes the floor beneath the other's feet. Your descent continues, slow, inevitable, peaceful. You are no longer falling but following. The stars behind you stretch slightly, their light drawn thin, as though time itself is lengthening between one heartbeat and the next. You think about how gravity holds galaxies together, how it sculpts cosmic structures vast beyond imagination. Without it, there would be no stars, no planets, no gentle place to rest your head at night. Everything, every thought, every dream, owes its shape to gravity's quiet order. You feel its tenderness now, not its might. It does not crush or command. It simply gathers. It gathers everything that was scattered. It teaches the universe how to stay connected. As you drift deeper, you begin to notice something strange at the edges of your perception. The starlight fades not because it's gone, but because it cannot escape a certain boundary, a horizon you cannot see but can almost sense. The pull has become irresistible now, not dangerous but mesmerizing, like the tide drawing toward the deepest part of the sea. Here, near this invisible boundary, You feel the laws of reality stretch to their limits. Time slows almost to stillness. Light curves entirely, folding back toward the source of gravity itself. The well you sensed from afar is here, not a pit, but a place where the very rules of space and time rewrite themselves. A black hole. But not yet the devourer you've imagined in distant documentaries. Not yet a monster. Here, from the edge, it feels like something else, an idea made real. A point where density and patience have reached their extreme. The collapse of a massive star, frozen in time from the outside, its heartbeat forever slowed. You imagine what it must be like inside that veil. Not chaos, but perhaps stillness beyond comprehension. A place where everything that falls and continues to exist, in some way, in some form, beyond reach but not beyond meaning. You hover at the event horizon, where light itself struggles to escape. The term sounds dramatic, but it's soft here. Like a horizon of twilight, a threshold rather than a wall. You realize that the black hole is not darkness itself, but a mirror of how deeply the universe can curve. In this moment, you understand, darkness is not absence. It is potential. It is where the known world folds into mystery, where equations grow silent and imagination must step forward. Every black hole, every region of impossible gravity, is not an end but a continuation inward, into the heart of what reality might be. You stay for a while at that edge, suspended between the known and the unknown. The stars you left behind shimmer faintly, distorted by the curvature. Time outside races ahead, but you feel none of it. Here, eternity feels slow. Your thoughts drift to the story of the universe itself. How it began in a moment of light, and now, through gravity's hand, finds its shape in shadow. You wonder if everything, in the end, is drawn toward such stillness, not as a fall but as a return. You are no longer afraid of the dark. You see it as the place where all things rest, where motion finally quiets, where the dance becomes a single note sustained forever. In the silence, you can almost hear the hum of the cosmos again, softer now, deeper. The same hum you felt when you began, but richer, more resonant, like understanding itself vibrating through you. You realize that to descend into darkness is not to vanish, but to listen, to become part of the song that gravity has been singing since the stars were born. And as you hover on the edge of that infinite well, you sense that there is more to learn. Something lies beyond this horizon, something not only about matter, but about time itself. The darkness deepens, but you are calm. You are ready to see what lies within the curve. You close your eyes and let go. The noise of the world fades, the ticking clocks, the distant hum of life. Beneath you, something vast and silent unfolds. It does not have color or texture, yet it supports everything. You cannot see it, but you can feel it. The subtle pull beneath your feet, the cradle that holds the planets in their orbits, the invisible web connecting every atom to every star. This is spacetime, not empty, but alive with the shape of everything that exists. Imagine it as an ocean, stretching endlessly in all directions. You are floating on its surface, though there is no surface at all. Stars and galaxies rest upon it like pearls upon water, each one sending a ripple outward, soft waves of influence, moving through the deep. Where the waves meet, they bend and fold around one another. Reality curves here, imperceptibly but profoundly. This curvature is what you have always known as gravity. You were taught that gravity is a force, something that pulls. But now you feel it differently. You sense that it does not drag or tug. It simply shapes the path you take. You are not being pulled toward Earth's core. You are sliding along the gentle slope the Earth makes in the fabric of spacetime. Every step you take is guided by this unseen geometry. The apple that falls does not plunge through emptiness. It follows the shortest route the universe allows, curving gracefully into the Earth's waiting hand. You breathe deeply, letting the concept dissolve into sensation. Beneath you, the fabric stretches, smooth and infinite. It bends beneath mountains and moons, flexing under the quiet weight of stars. Each object tells spacetime how to curve, and spacetime tells each object how to move. It is a conversation without words, a silent choreography written into the nature of being. You feel the Earth's presence below you, its mass pressing gently into spacetime, making a dimple, a hollow, a well. The moon circles within that hollow, caught not by chains but by the simple shape of space itself. Around the sun, the planets follow smooth lines that are not truly lines at all, but spirals upon this curved sheet. Gravity, you realize, is not a force of attraction but a matter of direction, the tendency of everything to follow the curvature laid out beneath it. You drift upward in your mind, leaving the planet behind. From above, you see the sun bending spacetime around itself, a luminous whirlpool in the cosmic sea. The planets move like leaves upon that current, their paths dictated by the sun's immense presence. Even light, the fastest, freest traveler in existence, must bow to this curvature. When it passes a star, its path bends slightly, as though acknowledging the star's quiet authority. You think of Einstein, a mind that once sat still and imagined riding on a beam of light. It was through such thought experiments that this new vision of the universe was born. He replaced Newton's invisible pulling forces with something more elegant, the geometry of existence itself. His equations do not describe gravity as a push or a pull, but as the shape of the stage upon which all events unfold. Time and space are not separate. They are woven together, threads of a single tapestry. When you move through space, you move through time as well, and the fabric shifts around you. You begin to wonder what this fabric feels like to the stars themselves. Perhaps, for them, it is the truest sensation of rest, to be held, to float, to exist in quiet accord with the structure of reality. In your imagination, you lay your hand upon the fabric. It feels neither hard nor soft, but pliant, like water that remembers every movement. A nearby star makes a ripple, and you feel its echo, faint, like a distant heartbeat in the dark. The ripples never stop. Even now, gravitational waves travel through the universe, small tremors caused by colliding black holes or merging neutron stars. When they pass through Earth, they stretch and compress spacetime itself by less than the width of an atom. Yet we can measure them, proof that even the universe has a pulse. You find comfort in this idea, that the cosmos is not static, but breathing in its own vast rhythm. You begin to imagine yourself as part of this rhythm. Your body, though small, also curves spacetime ever so slightly. Every particle of you bends reality a fraction of a degree. You are part of the same equation as the galaxies. You belong to the same conversation that shapes stars and governs planets. The distinction between the cosmic and the personal begins to blur. The universe is not out there, it is beneath, around, and within. You realize that even time itself is not separate from this web. As you walk upon Earth, the passage of time flows differently for you than it does for someone far from a planet's pole. Clocks tick slower near mass, faster in the emptier reaches of space. This is not illusion but truth, the rhythm of time stretching and folding with the shape of spacetime. To stand on Earth's surface is to stand within a gentle valley of time, every second slightly slower than it would be in the vast void beyond. The idea is dizzying, yet it brings you peace. Time and space are not rigid. They are supple, generous. They make room for everything. Even the smallest atom has its place in the great architecture of the cosmos. You begin to sense the beauty in this, that existence is not built upon separation, but connection. Every presence, no matter how small, leaves its impression upon the whole. As you float in thought, you imagine the surface of spacetime stretching endlessly before you, curving and folding into unseen dimensions. The light of distant galaxies travels across it, following the paths carved by gravity. Some of that light is bent, distorted into arcs, cosmic mirages we call gravitational lenses. Through these distortions, we see the hidden matter of the universe, invisible but undeniable. Even in its bending, spacetime reveals its secrets. You rest in the knowledge that you are part of something immeasurable. The floor beneath you is not merely ground, it is the woven foundation of being. You stand upon the fabric of existence itself. You breathe, and the fabric moves with you, ever so slightly, acknowledging your presence. The universe feels both intimate and infinite. You are small, yet your smallness does not diminish you. It defines the harmony of scale. You belong to the same ocean that carries galaxies in its tide. The stars above are not distant ornaments. They are companions on this great, curved sea. As your awareness drifts, the curvature beneath you seems to deepen. You feel drawn toward something, not a place but an idea. The thought of time itself, flowing across this curved expanse, linking every motion and every change. You wonder, if space can bend, can time also? Can the moments of your life ripple through eternity, just as the stars ripple through space? You close your eyes once more, feeling the universe breathe beneath you. The fabric of spacetime holds you gently, and you let yourself drift toward the next question, toward the quiet mystery of time itself. You float in a quiet region of space, suspended in the darkness that stretches endlessly in every direction. Ahead of you glows a giant, a star swollen to its limit, heavy with the burden of its own brilliance. It has burned for millions of years, fusing lighter elements into heavier ones, shining with a steady, patient fire. Now it trembles. Its glow dims and flares, dims again. A rhythm slowing, like the breath of someone nearing the end of a long life. You can almost feel the weight of the moment. The star exhales one last time. Inside, deep beneath its glowing surface, the balance that held it together begins to unravel. For most of its life, the star has been a master of equilibrium. Outward pressure from nuclear fusion perfectly matched the inward pull of gravity. But fusion is a finite process, and the fuel that powered its radiance has finally run dry. No more hydrogen to fuse into helium. No more helium to turn into carbon, oxygen, or iron. The star has reached iron, the element that ends creation within the heart of stars. Iron does not give back energy when fused, takes it, and so, the core cools and gravity, unopposed, begins to win. The collapse begins quietly, invisibly. The outer layers of the star know nothing of it at first. But at the center, atoms are being crushed beyond recognition. Electrons and protons, the familiar building blocks of matter, are forced together, merging into neutrons. A sea of neutrinos bursts outward, billions upon billions of them, slipping through the star as if it were made of mist. You imagine hearing it, a sound beyond sound, a vibration of spacetime itself. Then, without warning, the balance breaks completely. The outer layers, once suspended by pressure, come crashing inward. The star folds in on itself, not gradually but catastrophically. The collapse happens in a heartbeat. A sun larger than 1,000,000 Earths shrinks to the size of a single city. Gravity, relentless and unsentimental, compacts everything it can reach. And then the rebound. The collapsing matter slams into the dense, unyielding core and ricochets outward. For a brief instant, an explosion of unimaginable power tears through the cosmos. This is a supernova, the last luminous breath of a dying giant. You watch as the shockwave blooms in slow motion, petals of incandescent gas unfolding into space. The star's outer layers are thrown into the void, carrying with them the heavy elements forged in its heart. Gold, iron, carbon, the ingredients of planets, of oceans of life. The debris glows like molten embers scattered by a cosmic wind. For a moment, the universe seems to pause and witness its own renewal. You feel a quiet awe settle over you. Every atom in your body was once part of a moment like this. Every breath you take carries the memory of ancient stars collapsing, their deaths written into your bones, your blood, your breath. The supernova light travels across the cosmos, shining for weeks, sometimes months, before fading. What remains at the heart of the explosion depends on the mass of the star. Some leave behind neutron stars, small, dense orbs that spin rapidly and emit beams of radiation. Others, the truly massive ones, continue collapsing even after the explosion's outward flare. They cross a boundary from which nothing can return. The event horizon, the birth of a black hole. You drift closer to the fading center of the explosion, where gravity is beginning to pull the scattered debris back inward. The light around you bends slightly, distorted by the growing gravitational field. Time itself seems to slow, each second stretching a little longer than the last. You sense the deepening gravity, like the slow inhalation of an invisible lung. The star, though no longer burning, is still alive in a different way, alive with collapse, alive with the irresistible pull of spacetime folding in on itself. Inside what remains, density increases without limit. Imagine compressing all the mountains, oceans, and cities of Earth into a space no larger than a raindrop. Even that is not enough to describe it. The laws of physics, the rules that govern every motion and every particle, begin to fail here. Gravity grows so strong that light itself, the fastest thing in the universe, cannot escape. It curves inward, circling endlessly until it vanishes. You realize, as you watch, that the universe is capable of extremes far beyond human comprehension. And yet, in its violence, there is a strange peace, a kind of symmetry in endings and beginnings. The collapse is not destruction. It is transformation. The matter that once glowed now becomes invisible, yet it still shapes the world around it. Space bends toward it, time stretches beside it. The black hole becomes not an object but a region. A wound in spacetime, smooth and perfect, where the past and future fold into one another. You imagine falling toward it, not in fear, but in wonder. As you approach the event horizon, the border beyond which no light escapes, time slows relative to the rest of the universe. From your perspective, everything beyond seems to accelerate, stars streaking through their lifespans in moments. To distant observers, though, you appear to freeze at the edge, suspended forever at the brink of disappearance. The black hole hides you not by swallowing you quickly, but by stretching your moment of approach across eternity. You are caught between two truths. From within, you cross easily. From without, you never do. And so the story of this giant's collapse becomes a paradox, one that bridges the boundaries of physics and poetry. You think of how stars are like living things, born, growing, aging, dying. And in their deaths, they give rise to new beginnings. Their light fades, but their matter endures, reshaped, repurposed, recycled through the universe. Every black hole was once a star, and every atom of your being was once inside a star that met the same fate. You are, in a very real sense, the echo of stellar collapse. The light from the dying star finally reaches your face. It is faint, soft, ancient. You close your eyes and feel the warmth that began billions of years ago, before there were names, before there were eyes to see. You imagine the star's final breath traveling through time and distance to reach this quiet moment. The explosion subsides. The nebula cools. Around the black hole, a disk of gas and dust begins to form, the remnants of what once was. Slowly, over millions of years, these remnants may give rise to new stars, perhaps even new worlds. The cycle will continue, endlessly folding in on itself, endlessly beginning again. You drift farther back now, watching the faint shimmer of the accretion disk, glowing lines of light spiraling toward the darkness. It is beautiful even in its finality. The black hole does not devour in anger or malice. It simply is gravity perfected, matter distilled into its purest essence. And you, the observer, float in its presence as though before a mirror. You see in it the same truth that lives in all things, that everything changes form, that endings are not truly ends, that every collapse holds within it the seed of creation. In the silence you listen not for sound but for rhythm, the rhythm of birth and death, of expansion and contraction, of fire and stillness. You begin to sense the harmony of cosmic breathing, galaxies exhaling starlight, black holes inhaling it again. The universe is alive with the pulse of transformation. And somewhere in that pulse you realize there is no real difference between what falls and what rises, between what collapses and what expands. They are both motions of the same vast being, the universe inhaling and exhaling its own existence. The light from the supernova fades completely now, leaving behind only the faint glow of dust and the invisible presence of the black hole. Space settles into its quiet once again. You are left with darkness, not the absence of light, but the fullness of it, the potential for something new. You drift in silence, feeling the calm that follows great transformation. The star's story is over, and yet something new has begun. unseen, but inevitable. You take one last look at the place where a giant once lived and breathed, and you wonder if a star can collapse into something so dense it traps even light. Then what happens, you think softly, when the darkness itself begins to fade? You drift closer now. The stars behind you lengthen into threads of light, drawn thin by gravity's invisible hand. Space itself stretches, a slow unraveling that feels like breathing in reverse. Ahead, the blackness grows deeper, more absolute. Not darkness, but the absence of escape. The horizon of no return waits, silent and patient. From far away, the world would see you slow to stillness. Your fall appears endless, frozen in time. But from within your own perspective, nothing changes. Your heartbeat keeps its quiet rhythm. The hum of your own thoughts continues. The edge of the event horizon feels less like a wall and more like a whisper. A murmur from the universe, saying, here the rules are different. Space and time are woven together, like threads in a cosmic fabric. Einstein called this fabric spacetime, and a black hole is where that fabric folds in on itself infinitely. Imagine stretching a sheet until it tears in the center, creating a funnel so deep that even light, the fastest traveler, cannot climb out. That is what surrounds you now. Not a hole, not really, but a pit in existence itself. You hover near its edge, where time bends. Every moment stretches longer, each second pulling apart until the rhythm of the universe slows into a near stop. To you, everything feels normal. To an observer watching from a distance, your image freezes, your light fading, redshifting, stretched into invisibility. This is the event horizon, the ultimate boundary. Beyond it, the escape velocity exceeds the speed of light. No signal, no message, no memory can return. Yet, paradoxically, it isn't a physical surface. It is a threshold of perception, the line between what can be known and what must remain hidden. You listen. There's no sound here, but the silence is full. It carries the weight of all that has crossed before you. Stars collapsing, time compressing, information dissolving into heat. You wonder, if nothing escapes, where does it all go? Physics has asked this same question for decades. Hawking once imagined that black holes were not entirely black, that they could leak faint radiation from their edges. Tiny quantum fluctuations, pairs of particles born from nothing, appear near the horizon. One falls in, one escapes, and through this small act, the black hole whispers away its mass, atom by atom, over eons of time. This process is known as Hawking radiation. It is slow, gentle, and inevitable. Like a candle that burns without flame, the black hole fades. Even something so powerful is not forever. It hums softly into the void, returning what it has taken, in the smallest possible way. You imagine that whisper now, the radiation's faint glow, impossible to see, yet mathematically real. Each quantum flicker a syllable of information, encoded in the vibration of space itself. Could these whispers carry the story of everything that fell inside? A star, a planet, a photon, all rewritten in the language of heat. Perhaps the universe never forgets. Perhaps it only transforms. The horizon before you feels alive with that possibility. The silence vibrates, as though full of secret motion. You sense the boundary is not an end, but a translation, a passage where reality changes dialects. The laws of physics, so familiar beyond this point, begin to stumble, to stutter, to hesitate. General relativity describes the curve of spacetime beautifully, but here, at this edge, quantum theory begins to murmur back. Two great truths, speaking in different tongues, overlap for a heartbeat before dissolving into mystery. The closer you drift, the more your sense of scale fades. You cannot tell whether you are miles away or microns. The gradient of gravity is absolute, stretching you in one direction, compressing you in another. Spaghettification, the scientists call it, a light-hearted word for something unimaginable. Yet even that stretching is not painful in this imagined stillness. It is simply a letting go. The self unravels into the flow of geometry. You are no longer separate from the field. You are part of the curve. Light itself hesitates here. Photons orbit the horizon in unstable circles, caught in perpetual compromise between falling in and escaping out. They form a glowing ring, a halo of captured light that marks the edge. That faint, fiery outline, photographed by the Event Horizon Telescope, is the universe's own silhouette of mystery. You think of it as a whisper made visible. Every black hole has its own horizon, its own whisper. Some are small, the size of mountains, others vast, spanning entire solar systems. And at the heart of most galaxies, including your own, a supermassive one hums softly. It anchors billions of stars, holds structure in place, and yet hides in silence. What appears destructive is, in truth, stabilizing. You begin to see the paradox that destruction and creation are entwined. The black hole does not erase. It transforms. It gathers matter and energy and, through its very gravity, shapes galaxies. Without these dark centers, the cosmic order would lose its rhythm. The universe would have no anchor for its dance. The whisper you hear is not one of warning, but of balance. It tells you that even in the places where nothing returns, something still matters. Even at the edge of the unseeable, the universe remains connected, information woven into every vibration of space. Your thoughts drift outward again, imagining what lies beyond. Inside the horizon, time and space switch roles. To cross it would mean to move forward not in space, but in time, inevitably, unstoppably, toward the singularity. Yet from your vantage, that singularity is hidden, unreachable, and perhaps not even real in the way you imagine. Quantum mechanics may dissolve it entirely, turning the point into a cloud of probabilities. And so, you hover. You are both observer and participant, caught at the very threshold of comprehension. You feel no fear, only awe, a calm acceptance that some mysteries are not walls, but windows without glass. Around you, gravity continues to bend the fabric of the cosmos. The stars seem to curve inward, their light drawn along invisible lines. Each photon's journey tells you something profound, that space and time are not static, but living, stretching, flexing, changing under the weight of existence. You reach out, though there is nothing to touch. The whisper deepens. Perhaps it is not the black hole that speaks, but the universe itself, reminding you that boundaries are part of the rhythm of everything. There must be edges so that motion has meaning. There must be silence so that sound can return. For a moment, you think you hear your own thoughts reflected back, bent and delayed by gravity's curve. You are both inside and outside the question now, both falling and still. The event horizon is no longer a line in space, but a state of understanding. It is the realization that the closer you come to truth, the more it eludes your grasp, not to frustrate you, but to keep you curious. In that calm, infinite hush, the whisper fades. Not an ending, but a continuation in another form. The silence hums again, soft, constant, eternal. And just before everything vanishes into lightless calm, another question forms, quiet but clear. What happens beyond the horizon? In the heart of the singularity itself, you are falling, not in the frantic, tumbling way of dreams, but in a slow, continuous descent that feels more like floating. The air, if it can be called that, grows thinner with meaning. Around you, the stars begin to curve. The light bends, as if space itself were exhaling. You are drawn inward, not downward, toward something that feels infinite and near all at once. First, it feels like motion. You sense the pull of gravity, that invisible kindness that holds galaxies together. You fall toward the center, and for a moment, it feels like you are part of something vast and alive. Every atom in your body stretches toward the same direction, each particle whispering the same silent hymn. Closer, closer, closer. But soon, the sense of movement changes. The closer you draw, the slower everything becomes. Time, which once felt like a current, begins to thicken around you. Syrup slow, viscous. Your heartbeat drifts apart. Seconds expand into hours, hours into something wordless. The fall continues, but it also stops. You are moving endlessly toward a place you will never reach. From the outside, a distant observer would see you differently. They would see you approach the edge, the event horizon, and slow until you seem to stop altogether. You never vanish. Your image lingers, frozen on the threshold, light stretched red and thin by the pull of gravity. To them, you never cross the boundary. You become a shadow, a reflection, an echo held in suspension. But from inside the fall, time feels whole. You never stop. You cross invisible lines, drift deeper into the well. The horizon passes through you like silence passing through sound. Everything outside begins to fade. The stars, the galaxies, the idea of before and after. Only the falling remains. A motion without measure. A journey without end. This is falling as meditation. You feel your thoughts stretch the way light does. The boundaries between moments dissolve. There is no past here, no future to anticipate. The mind, unanchored from time, begins to loosen its grip. What you once called fear becomes wonder. What you once called self becomes space. In this deep inward fall, you begin to notice something else. The stillness is not empty. It hums. Beneath the silence, there is structure, invisible threads of geometry and force. Space is curved, yes, but not chaotic. It folds inward like a petal closing at dusk. You are falling through the mathematics of existence, and somehow it feels peaceful. Physicists call this spacetime curvature, but to you it feels like surrender. Each moment, each sensation, is drawn inward by gravity's hand. Einstein once imagined this not as a force but as a shape, mass bending the fabric of the cosmos. The more massive the body, the deeper the curve. You are falling along that curve, tracing the path that spacetime itself dictates. And yet, this fall is strange. You do not feel speed, only stillness. The more you fall, the more the universe slows. You are approaching light's own boundary, the point where velocity and time exchange places. The deeper you go, the more time stretches until even light cannot escape its own reflection. It feels like breathing in reverse, inhaling the infinite, exhaling the self. Perhaps that is what meditation has always been, the act of falling inward toward a center that cannot be reached. Every breath a soft orbit, every heartbeat another spiral toward silence. You descend not to arrive, but to experience the falling itself. And here, inside this infinite descent, you begin to understand the paradox. To the universe, you are motionless. To yourself, you are forever in motion. Both are true. Both describe the same reality, seen from opposite sides of time. You imagine someone watching you from afar, standing outside the horizon, peering through the lens of gravity. They see you as light fading, redshifting toward invisibility. They believe you are frozen at the edge, trapped in endless approach. They can wait an eternity and still never see you vanish. Yet from your perspective, you are already within. You have crossed into the heart of gravity's dream. You drift through an interior that feels infinite yet contained, like a thought that never finishes, or a breath held just before release. You wonder what lies at the center. Physicists call it a singularity, a place where equations collapse, where spacetime folds so tightly that meaning itself becomes infinite. But perhaps that center is not a place at all. Perhaps it is a metaphor, a reminder that not everything can be reached, that some destinations exist only as direction. The fall becomes a kind of prayer. Each moment is a repetition, a mantra of surrender. You are being pulled by something you cannot see, toward something you cannot name. And in that unknowing, there is peace. If you listen closely, you can almost hear the universe breathing. The rhythm of creation and collapse, of stars being born and swallowed. You realize that falling is not failure. It is participation, the way light gives itself to gravity, the way gravity gives itself to form. There is no bottom here. There is only continuation, a motion so complete it feels like stillness. And maybe that's the secret. That eternity is not endless time but timelessness. That you do not need to arrive for the journey to be complete. You have felt this before in smaller ways. In the quiet before sleep, when thought dissolves into drifting. In meditation, when breath slows until even your body feels like it's hovering between worlds. In love, when a moment feels suspended beyond measure. These are small black holes of experience, gravitational wells within consciousness, where time bends around feeling. You begin to wonder, what if falling forever is not a punishment, but the universe's way of holding you gently in place? What if the reason you never reach the center is because you already are the center, the point from which all things expand and to which all things return? Inside this question, you rest. You feel the smooth weight of gravity not as pull, but as presence. The boundaries of your body blur. You are the curve, the fall, the silence. Space folds through you like fabric through water. And as the outer universe slows to stillness, something luminous awakens within. The fall becomes inward, not through space but through awareness itself. The deeper you go, the more you dissolve into the very thing you were falling toward. This is what the physicists could not measure, what equations could not hold. The subjective infinity of descent. The experience of approaching forever. Time no longer moves forward. It moves around you, looping softly like a lullaby. You begin to sense that there is no edge, no boundary between the fall and the fallen. There is only perspective, a mirror held on both sides of gravity. Outside, you are frozen light. Inside, you are endless motion. Both are true. And perhaps this, too, is the nature of peace. Not stillness without motion, but motion without struggle. The act of surrendering to what already holds you. You are not lost here. You are part of the geometry of existence, drawn into a rhythm that never ends. Falling, yes, but never apart. You inhale once more, and the inhale feels infinite. You exhale, and the exhale feels like release. There is no sound now, only the hum of gravity's lullaby. And as you continue to fall, as the horizon folds quietly behind you, you sense that even this endless descent is leading somewhere, not toward an end, but toward understanding. The realization arrives slowly, like dawn creeping through space. You were never falling into the black hole. You were falling with it, the universe and you collapsing together into the still point of awareness. And in that soft collapsing, you feel something open. Not an ending, but a continuation. A subtle bridge to the next question. A next horizon where stillness and creation meet. You drift toward the center of all things. Here, gravity is no longer a pull but a hum, a low, continuous vibration that threads through everything. You cannot tell where you end and where the space around you begins. It feels like floating inside a question, one that has been whispered since the dawn of time. What lies at the heart of a black hole? You have heard the word singularity before, a word that sounds sharp, decisive, as though it names something precise. But now, as you draw near, you sense it is not a point at all. It is more like a dissolving, a place where ideas themselves lose coherence. The equations that once held the universe steady begin to blur, like ink in water. Einstein's general relativity, with its smooth curvatures of spacetime, folds in on itself here. Quantum mechanics, with its dance of probabilities, trembles and refuses to speak clearly. You realize the singularity is not a thing to see or touch, but the place where understanding itself bends and fades. Inside your mind, you picture the core of a black hole not as a dot, but as a stillness, a silence so complete that even light cannot describe it. Gravity becomes infinite or perhaps simply undefined. The clocks stop. Distances have no meaning. And yet, paradoxically, this void contains the memory of everything that fell within it. Every star, every atom, every ripple of radiation that once dared to cross its horizon. You wonder how the universe can hold both nothing and everything in the same breath. The physicists who study this mystery speak with care. They use mathematics like candles in the dark, each symbol a flicker of hope that some pattern might emerge. They talk of quantum gravity, a theory that could marry the vast fabric of relativity with the fine grains of quantum mechanics. But so far, no one has found the language both theories can agree on. The singularity sits at that junction, refusing to choose sides, keeping its secret folded within. You imagine this not as a failure of science, but as an invitation, a reminder that reality still has corners left unexplored. Perhaps the singularity is not an end, but a beginning. Perhaps it is the seed from which new universes sprout, like bubbles forming on the surface of boiling water. There is a theory, quiet but compelling, called cosmic censorship. It suggests that nature hides its singularities behind event horizons, so that no observer can ever see the breakdown of physics directly. The universe, In its wisdom, shields you from the raw face of infinity. It lets you glimpse the mystery, but not the madness. You find comfort in that thought, that even in the fiercest extremes, there is gentleness, a soft boundary between knowing and not knowing. And yet, curiosity stirs. You cannot help but lean closer in imagination. What if the singularity is not a place but a process, a transformation? In the same way that an idea breaks open and becomes something new, maybe the universe does the same. Matter collapses not into destruction, but into change. Your mind wanders through metaphors. Perhaps the singularity is like a pearl forming within an oyster, a point of irritation turned into beauty, or like a seed that must die before the sprout can live. In the mathematics of creation, perhaps annihilation and Genesis share the same curve. You picture the universe before it began, a moment so dense and so hot that the very notion of before doesn't apply. Cosmologists call it the Big Bang, but perhaps it was another singularity, another dissolving. The beginning and the black hole are mirrors of each other, one expanding outward, the other collapsing inward, both whispering the same truth. At the edge of understanding, time folds in upon itself. You breathe slowly, letting that image settle. The singularity becomes less frightening and more intimate. It is not a monster devouring light, but a mystery asking to be heard. It is the silence between notes that allows the music to exist. You think of entropy, the universe's tendency toward disorder, and wonder how that concept applies here. Inside a black hole, the usual rules no longer apply. Information, according to some, is not lost but encoded, smeared across the event horizon in a cosmic script yet to be fully deciphered. Hawking radiation, faint and ghostly, whispers the story outward, bit by bit, as the black hole slowly evaporates. Even in disappearance, something remains. You realize then that the singularity's secret might not be about destruction at all, but about preservation in another form, another language. It teaches you that endings are never truly final. They are transformations disguised as farewells. The space around you grows quieter still. You feel as though you are listening to the heartbeat of the cosmos itself. A steady rhythm beneath the collapse and creation, the expansion and contraction. The singularity hums softly, not in sound, but in presence. It is the pause at the center of all movement. You let go of the need to understand completely. You allow wonder to take its place. The universe, after all, was never meant to be fully solved, only experienced. Somewhere deep in this unseen heart, the geometry of space twists upon itself, perhaps connecting to another world, another time. Wormholes, quantum bridges, ideas that flutter between imagination and theory. Maybe the singularity is the meeting point of all possibilities, where every path converges and diverges again in endless variation. You drift in that thought as though in a dream. The walls of logic blur, not to erase truth, but to remind you that truth is vast, layered, unfolding. You begin to feel that the singularity's secret is not hidden from you. It is within you. The same laws that bend and merge here are the ones that shaped your atoms, your heartbeat, your consciousness. You, too, are a point where the infinite briefly takes form. Slowly, you begin to move away. The gravitational hum softens. The darkness becomes textured again. Stars forming faint outlines beyond the horizon of thought. You carry with you the sense that knowledge need not always arrive as an answer. Sometimes, it comes as peace. You think again of the sugar dissolving in tea, how the sweetness doesn't vanish but becomes part of the whole. That is the singularity's way. It teaches you that nothing is truly separate, that even when forms dissolve, essence remains. As you drift outward, you feel time beginning to flow again, gentle and slow, like a tide returning to shore. Somewhere beyond, light still travels, space still stretches, and the universe continues its quiet story. But you have touched its heart, and felt, if only for a moment, what it means when everything becomes one. You close your eyes on that thought, weightless and still. And in that stillness, another question begins to rise. Soft, uncertain, like dawn behind a horizon. If the center of everything is silence, what song does the universe sing beyond it? You drift through a silence so complete it feels like time itself has stopped to listen. Before you lies a region of space where everything, stars, dust, and the very breath of light, seems drawn toward an invisible heart. You can't see it, but you can sense it, like the hush before a deep inhale. A gravity so immense, so absolute, that even light, the fastest thing the universe has ever known, cannot outrun its pull. You watch a beam of light approach, bright and confident, a traveler born from the fire of a distant star. It moves straight for a moment, unwavering, as though certain of its path. But as it nears this dark horizon, it curves, just slightly at first, as if hesitating. Then, gracefully, inevitably, it arcs inward, drawn into the unseen. Here, at the edge of a black hole, gravity becomes more than a force. It is a sculptor, bending space itself into a perfect curve. You realize that light doesn't fall because it is weak. It bends because the space it moves through is no longer straight. It follows the shortest path available, and in a universe where straight lines no longer exist, even light must bow. Imagine yourself holding a small, invisible fabric between your fingers. This is spacetime. Drop a marble onto it, and the cloth dips. Now roll a smaller marble nearby, and it spirals inward, not because it is pulled by invisible threads, but because the fabric itself is curved. Gravity is that curve, a quiet distortion of the stage upon which everything dances. And light, swift and weightless, cannot resist dancing to the tune of that curvature. You recall Einstein's revelation, that gravity isn't a mysterious pull, but the shape of space itself. A star, a planet, a person, all pressed gently into the cosmic fabric, shaping the paths around them. A black hole, though, it presses so deeply that the fabric folds upon itself. A well so steep that nothing, not even light, can find its way out. Feels tragic, in a way, the light that tries to escape but never can. Yet, there's something beautiful here too. Light and gravity are not enemies. They are partners in an eternal waltz, tracing curves that reveal the structure of the universe. Without this dance, you would not see the universe as it is, for even the starlight that reaches your eyes has been gently curved on its way, shaped by galaxies and clusters, a cosmic lens painting distant beauty across the dark. You think of how long that light has traveled, perhaps billions of years, through emptiness, through silence, across oceans of time. It brushes past unseen gravitational wells, its path shifted ever so slightly. And still, it arrives. A message from the past, a whisper of what once was. The light of ancient stars tells you stories of birth, collapse, and transformation. Even when bent, even when delayed, light always carries truth. In a sense, you realize we too are bent by gravity, not of space but of time and emotion. Our paths curve around the masses of our lives. Moments, choices, memories. Each leaves its mark on the fabric of who we are. We are not pulled by invisible hands but guided by the shape of our own experience. We move along the curve of everything that has mattered. And so, the story of light and gravity becomes a mirror for your own journey. To bend is not to lose. It is to move gracefully within the shape of something larger, to surrender not in defeat, but in harmony. As you drift closer to the edge, the horizon of the black hole glows faintly, a shimmering ring of light circling darkness. It is called the event horizon, the last place where light can still dance before disappearing beyond view. From the outside, you never see it cross. You only see its echo, frozen in time, forever circling. Inside, though, time flows differently, slower, stretched by gravity's deep song. You wonder what the light experiences in that moment, if experience is even the right word. To us, it slows to stillness. To itself, it continues onward, unaware of the border it has crossed. In that paradox lies something profoundly tender, that even in the strongest gravity, light never stops trying. It continues forward, always forward, into the unseen. The scientists call it gravitational lensing, when light bends around massive objects. But in your heart, it feels like compassion, the way light never abandons its journey, even when the path curves unexpectedly. the way it still reaches the eyes of those who wait in darkness. Perhaps that is what love is, too. Not a force, but a curvature, shaping the space between two beings, pulling them gently toward one another. You float there, suspended in awe, watching the last traces of light spiral inward. The black hole does not roar or rage. It is silent, patient, ancient, and yet it shapes everything around it. Entire galaxies spin in quiet obedience to its gravity, as if bowing to an unseen rhythm. You realize that this dark heart is not an absence but a presence, the hidden center of motion and meaning. In its depths, energy and matter dissolve, time folds, and the rules you know unravel. But from this mystery, new understanding is born. Light, in trying to escape, reveals the very structure of the cosmos. There's a serenity in that thought, that even struggle has purpose, that even what vanishes teaches you something about what remains. And somewhere, beyond this horizon, you imagine light still moving, not gone, but transformed. Perhaps that is the universe's quiet promise, that nothing is ever truly lost, only changed, only curved, only hidden from view until another kind of vision finds it. You take a breath, feeling the calm gravity of that idea settle into you. Light bends, but it endures. Darkness deepens, but it defines the glow. You close your eyes and sense the slow swirl of the cosmos, luminous threads weaving around invisible centers. Everything, you realize, is held together by this quiet attraction, this gentle bending. From galaxies to thoughts, from photons to dreams, nothing travels in a perfect line. And as the horizon fades into silence, you wonder softly, what happens to time itself? Once light can no longer escape, you float once more at the edge of darkness, that strange horizon where space folds in on itself, where even light seems to hesitate. The black hole looms, silent and immense, a mouth that has swallowed centuries of starlight. You've been here before, feeling its gravity in your chest, that slow and endless pull inward. It seems eternal, unchanging, a monument to cosmic hunger. But tonight, something feels different. The silence hums. The stillness is not absolute. Somewhere in that infinite black, a faint sound stirs. Not a roar, not a cry, but a whisper. You can't hear it with your ears. You sense it instead, like a shiver across the fabric of space itself. It is the faint exhale of the universe, the breath of something that was never meant to breathe. Stephen Hawking once sat beneath the same cosmic mystery. He imagined the impossible, that even black holes, those perfect prisons of light, are not truly silent. They sing very softly through the music of quantum physics. Not a song of sound, but of energy. A whisper made from the trembling of empty space. You picture it. At the very edge of the event horizon, space flickers. The quantum world never rests. Tiny pairs of particles appear and vanish. A dance that happens everywhere, in all of space, all the time. Usually, these pairs meet again and erase one another, as if nothing had ever happened. But near a black hole's mouth, the dance is interrupted. One particle falls in, the other escapes. And that escape, that faint and miraculous freedom, is what you hear now, the whisper of Hawking radiation. It is not light in any familiar sense. It is not heat as you feel it on your skin. It is the universe balancing its books, quietly returning what was once taken. Every particle that slips away is a fragment of the black hole's own mass, a tiny subtraction from its darkness. Over unimaginable ages, those whispers accumulate. The black hole fades. You drift closer, safely beyond the danger, observing from the shore of spacetime. You imagine this vast being, this black hole, not as a monster, but as a kind of sleeping creature. For eons it has swallowed stars, dust, and dreams. And now, ever so slowly, it breathes out. Its end will not come through violence, but through patience, through time itself. Hawking saw beauty in that patience. He understood that the laws of physics do not allow complete silence. Even in the blackest depths, there is always a conversation between matter and energy, between gravity and quantum uncertainty. A black hole, he realized, is not an eternal tomb. It is a slow storyteller. It releases its tale, word by word, photon by photon, until nothing remains but the echo of its existence. You feel the poetry of that idea settle into you like a lullaby. The universe is not cruel, not entirely. Keeps its promises in strange ways. What is taken is someday returned. What falls inward must, in time, find a way to rise again. You close your eyes and imagine watching this story unfold across the ages. At first, the radiation is faint beyond measure, lost in the hum of cosmic background light. Then, as the eons pass, it grows a little stronger. The black hole shrinks, imperceptibly but surely. Its edges soften in your mind's eye. It glows, dimly, like an ember in the dark. Billions of years pass in a heartbeat. The last star in the galaxy has faded. Space is colder now, quieter. Only the remnants remain, black holes and whispers. And even those, one by one, begin to sigh their final breath. The last one, perhaps, is small, no larger than a mountain. It hums with energy, its final moments bright as all the light it once consumed. Then, in a final flare, it disappears, leaving nothing but warmth where its gravity once was. The darkness exhales. The universe, for a moment, feels lighter. This vision isn't fantasy. It's the mathematics of mercy. Hawking's equations tell us that nothing lasts forever, not even the things that seem eternal. Every black hole is fated to fade, every horizon destined to dissolve. Entropy, the quiet spreading of energy, ensures that all things, even darkness, must someday find rest. And yet, there's a strange peace in that. You think of it as a kind of cosmic letting go. The black hole, once so greedy, learns to release. It gives back the energy it held, returning it to the universe like ashes scattered on a galactic wind. In its disappearance, there is balance. You drift in that thought for a while, the balance of all things. Gravity and radiation, taking and giving, consuming and releasing. You begin to sense that this balance isn't just a property of the cosmos, but of everything. The breath you draw in, the thoughts you release, the warmth that fades from your hands. All are echoes of the same rhythm. Perhaps that's what Hawking meant by dreaming, not just imagining equations, but hearing the pulse of existence, the faint conversation between being and nothingness. He listened to silence long enough to hear what it was saying. And you can, too. You let your awareness widen until it touches that horizon, the line between knowing and unknowing. You feel how space trembles there, alive with possibility. You sense the endless patience of time. Every second holds a fraction of infinity, a place for wonder to rest. The whisper deepens, or maybe it's you who grows more attuned to it. It tells a story older than stars, that endings are never abrupt. Even the end of light itself unfolds gently, like a tide receding from the shore. You picture the black hole's final shimmer not as death, but as release. A quiet promise that nothing truly disappears, only transforms. Perhaps that's why Hawking smiled when he spoke of radiation. It meant the universe is not absolute darkness. There is always a leak, a flaw, a glimmer of imperfection that allows beauty to pass through. Perfection, he knew, is the enemy of life. The world breathes through its cracks. You breathe with it now. Each inhalation feels like the pull of gravity. Each exhalation, a letting go, a personal Hawking radiation, a soft giving back of warmth to the vastness around you. You understand, in some quiet way, that you are also made of these same exchanges. The atoms that compose you were once inside stars, perhaps even in the light that brushed against a black hole's edge. And now, in this moment of stillness, you feel the truth settle in your chest. You, too, are a whisper of the cosmos, rising slowly back into the infinite. The horizon fades from sight. The black hole's voice softens to silence once again. But you know better now, silence is never empty. It is filled with the echoes of everything that has ever existed. The light, the gravity, the breath. You let your mind drift outward, past the limits of your body, into the fabric of space itself. Somewhere, far beyond the galaxies, countless black holes continue their slow, patient song. Somewhere, the universe continues to balance its own story, consuming, releasing, evolving. And somewhere within it all, there is you listening. The whisper lingers, half heard, half felt, like the fading hum of a dream upon waking. You can't quite grasp where it ends or where it began. Perhaps that is the point. Perhaps the universe isn't asking for understanding, only attention. You feel the pull of the next question rising like dawn behind the darkness. If black holes can vanish, what happens to the information they once held? Does the universe forget? Or does it remember everything, in ways we cannot yet see? You drift in the soft darkness of thought, floating between two infinities. On one side, the universe stretches outward, galaxies like slow sparks, drifting farther apart as space itself swells. On the other, a black hole pulls inward, collapsing time and matter into a single silent point. You are suspended between expansion and compression, between the endless outward breath and the endless inward sigh. The universe began with an explosion of light, and since then, it has never stopped growing. Every atom, every photon, every whisper of gravity rides this invisible wave of expansion. Yet somewhere, hidden in the velvet dark, black holes do the opposite. They pull, they gather, they erase the boundaries that everything else seems to create. They are the counterbalance, the exhale to the universe's inhale. You imagine them now not as monsters but as mirrors. Each black hole a reflection of the cosmos itself, the same rules inverted. Where the universe expands, a black hole contracts. Where the cosmos spreads energy thin, a black hole condenses it into singular unity. Two sides of one rhythm, like the tides of existence itself. There's a symmetry here that feels almost sacred. Physicists describe it with equations, with infinities that refuse to resolve. But you feel it in simpler terms, like standing between two mirrors, one showing endless outward copies, the other folding inward forever. You turn your gaze from one to the other, and somewhere in the middle you find yourself reflected too. The universe is not just vast, it is balanced. For every motion outward, there is an echo inward. Even time, that most mysterious of rivers, bends differently around a black hole. From far away, time slows, clinging to the event horizon. Inside, time and space exchange roles, as though reality itself forgets which direction it's meant to flow. Meanwhile, in the expanding universe, time races outward with everything else, stretching like light through glass. And still, somehow, the laws that govern both are the same. You wonder if that means balance is not just cosmic, but essential. Perhaps every force of creation carries within it a shadow of destruction, and every collapse carries the seed of creation. Stars die to form heavier elements, the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, and from the corpses of suns new worlds are born. Even the black hole, so final and consuming, may not be the end we think it is. Hawking's insight, whispered into equations decades ago, tells us that black holes may slowly evaporate, that even they, the densest expressions of gravity, eventually release their energy back into space. Not through fury, but through patience. Over unimaginable time, they fade. The great devourers become givers once again. And so, the universe breathes in cycles, expansion and collapse, creation and dissolution. You feel your own breath mirror this cosmic rhythm. Inhale. The chest expands like the galaxies drifting apart. Exhale. The body contracts, like matter spiraling into gravity's quiet heart. You realize that every breath is a miniature of the cosmos. Every heartbeat a reminder of cycles too vast to see, yet too intimate to ignore. It becomes clear that black holes are not mistakes in nature. They are punctuation marks in the story of being. They define edges where time hesitates, where meaning deepens. Without them, there would be no boundaries to remind the universe that it is finite, even in its infinity. And perhaps, in some strange way, the same is true for you. Your own edges, your limitations, your losses, your quiet moments of surrender. These are the black holes of your inner cosmos. They collapse what is unnecessary, pulling it inward, until what remains is dense and whole and real. The symmetry continues to unfold as you drift deeper into thought. Some scientists believe that the inside of a black hole might resemble the birth of a new universe. If that is true, then perhaps creation and destruction are not opposites at all, but gateways into one another. One infinity births another. Each singularity a seed. Each universe a flower that blooms and folds again. You imagine falling into a black hole, not as terror, but as transformation. Time stretches endlessly as you approach the event horizon. The universe outside rushes on faster and faster, until whole eons pass in what feels like a single breath. And then silence. No up or down, no before or after, only density, only being. Could this be what the beginning once felt like? The same moment of infinite compression that gave birth to everything? Perhaps inside every collapse lies a quiet echo of the Big Bang, a whisper that says, this, too, becomes something else. You realize that what we call the universe may not be one, but many. Each black hole, perhaps a doorway. Each universe, perhaps a reflection. Folding into itself, then blooming again elsewhere, like ripples of a single infinite ocean. Your mind softens around this thought. Infinity begins to feel less like a number, and more like a feeling, a quiet presence, vast and patient. The black hole and the cosmos no longer oppose each other. They hold hands, two expressions of the same truth. Expansion and collapse are simply the ways existence remembers itself. You are part of that remembering. Every thought you have, every dream that stirs while you drift in this meditative space, is another reflection. Tiny, ephemeral, yet infinite in its own way. Your consciousness expands like the universe, exploring and discovering, then collapses inward, resting and returning. The rhythm of thought and stillness is your own gravity, your own mirror between infinities. The stars outside your imagination keep moving. Space continues to stretch, the galaxies drift, and somewhere, a black hole hums, invisible but eternal. In their dance, the story continues. The push and pull of everything that ever was. And in that story, you are not separate. You are both the expansion and the collapse. You are both the question and the quiet answer that follows. As you drift toward sleep, the symmetry settles around you like a gentle gravity. You can feel the balance, the vastness above, the depth below. Both moving in harmony, both reflections of the same infinite mystery. And in that stillness, you wonder softly, if black holes mirror the universe, then what, perhaps, might the universe be reflecting of you? You are floating now. The pull that once gripped you, that fierce, unyielding gravity, has softened. You drift beyond the event horizon, beyond the boundary where even light once hesitated. Behind you lies the silence of the black hole's heart, that deep well of time and compression. Ahead, a faint shimmer, fragile yet persistent, stretches across the dark. It is not the blinding brilliance of stars, but something gentler, the glow of understanding, the afterglow of transformation. You breathe in the quiet. Space feels thinner here, as if it is exhaling after holding its breath for millennia. The vacuum trembles with invisible energy, the faint hum of quantum fields whispering through the void. You can almost feel them. Fleeting pairs of particles, appearing and disappearing, ghostly ripples along the skin of spacetime. This is where darkness meets creation, where endings are disguised as beginnings. You remember what it felt like to fall, the helplessness, the surrender, how gravity gathered around you, folding every thought into silence. Yet even there, within the deepest night, you were never truly lost. You were being remade, like light bending through a lens, or a seed pressed into the soil. What you called destruction was only transformation, a turning of energy from one form to another. Beyond the horizon, black holes breathe, slowly, eternally, not in the way stars do with fire and fusion, but through evaporation, a faint whisper of light that escapes from the edge. Stephen Hawking once called it radiation, the quiet glow that leaks from the void. Every black hole, no matter how vast, is destined to fade, releasing its secrets back into space as a soft shimmer of particles. Even darkness cannot keep everything forever. It's a comforting thought that even the most absolute silence has an ending, that time, patient and unhurried, can erode even gravity's iron grip. You watch it unfold in your mind, the black hole cooling, shrinking, exhaling its mass into the universe like smoke from a dying ember. Eventually, it disappears completely, leaving behind only a memory, a ripple in spacetime, a trace of what once was. The universe does not mourn. It continues to expand, to breathe, to weave new patterns from old threads. Every disappearance becomes a kind of offering, energy released, recycled, reborn. The cosmos is not wasteful. It is endlessly generous, folding loss into renewal. You realize now that the story of black holes is not about destruction but balance. Gravity gathers. Time transforms. Light returns. You drift through that awareness like a feather through air. Around you, the stars seem closer, as if they recognize the journey you've taken. Their light is soft and patient, arriving after thousands, sometimes millions, of years of travel. When you gaze at them, you are looking into the past, ancient messengers of fusion and collapse. Yet their message is always the same. Light endures. You begin to sense the rhythm of the cosmos, the heartbeat beneath all things. It is not fast or loud, but slow, steady, inevitable. Expansion and contraction, creation and decay. Even consciousness seems to pulse with that same cosmic breath. Perhaps that is why you are here, to remember that you are not separate from it. You too are a pattern of energy. You too radiate, fade, and renew. In the distance, a faint band of light stretches across the sky. The Milky Way, your home galaxy. It curves like a river, its current made of stars and dust, gravity and time. Every point of light within it is a story. A system of planets, moons, storms, and quiet. Somewhere in that swirl of brightness, a small blue world spins, cradling oceans and air, trees and minds capable of wonder. You imagine looking back toward it, not as a traveler lost in the void, but as a witness of connection. The black hole that once frightened you now feels like a teacher. It showed you what happens when gravity and light dance too closely, when curiosity dares to approach the unknown. And now, standing beyond it, you see the beauty in that risk. How every plunge into darkness carries the seed of revelation. Time itself feels different here. Not linear, but layered, folds of memory and possibility coexisting like overlapping waves. Perhaps that's what a black hole teaches most. That time is not a single river flowing forward, but a lake, deep and still, where moments ripple outward endlessly. When you drop a pebble of thought into it, the waves travel not just through space, but through understanding. You think of the photons, those tiny messengers of light that once struggled to escape the black hole's gravity. Even they are patient. Even they find their way out, eventually, through the dance of quantum uncertainty. What seems trapped is only paused, waiting for the right moment to reappear. You smile at that thought, because isn't that how knowledge works? You learn, you struggle, you fall into confusion, and then, quietly, something clicks. A spark of comprehension escapes the gravity of unknowing, and light returns. Understanding is not instantaneous. It is gradual, like Hawking radiation, like dawn rising after an eternal night. The universe doesn't rush, and neither should you. The stars take their time. The galaxies swirl at leisure. The black holes wait eons before releasing their final sigh of light. You too are allowed to move slowly, to drift, to breathe, to unfold. You are part of this same rhythm, this cosmic patience that stretches across all scales of existence. You glance one last time at the place where the darkness once was. It no longer looks menacing. It is beautiful, a soft curve in spacetime, a quiet scar where gravity once sang its deepest note. You realize that what you feared most was never the darkness itself, but the idea of ending. And yet, there are no true endings here, only transformations. The atoms that make you, the photons that touch your eyes, the thoughts that rise and fade. All of them are in motion, eternal and cyclical. Somewhere, beyond the visible edge of the cosmos, new black holes are forming. Stars collapse, matter spirals inward, and once again, gravity weaves its dark cradle. You imagine future travelers, perhaps other minds, other lives, drifting as you do now, learning the same lesson in their own way. That darkness is not a void to escape, but a depth to understand. You let that realization settle in you like light settling on water. It ripples gently outward, blending into the calm of infinite space. The horizon ahead glows faintly, not a barrier, but an invitation. The light there seems to whisper, "Come closer. There is always more to see." The black hole behind you fades into memory. The universe ahead stretches endlessly, its fabric shimmering with possibility. Every particle, every photon, every thought, all are part of a grand conversation between gravity and light, time and awareness. You are listening now, fully, quietly. Somewhere, far beyond what your eyes can perceive, new questions begin to form. Questions about what lies past this horizon of understanding. About where light goes next, and how curiosity keeps it alive. You close your eyes and drift with them, carried forward not by gravity, but by wonder. And as you do, you realize that the story doesn't end here. It merely begins again, in the glow beyond the horizon.